The Walking Dead Destinies has all the nipple-lactating ingredients you'd need out of any Walking Dead game. Thick walkers, impressive gunplay, and Rick. And due to budget cuts, we had to get him off Temu. Despite being one of the worst video games ever released with the graphical fidelity of a Mr. Beast video main character watching a Japanese adult film, and optimization that would make Bethesda's look like a D-cup instability, I decided to ask the question everyone has with this game.
Can you even finish Walking Dead Destinies?
Nah, well that too, but more importantly, can you finish Walking Dead Destinies without killing a single walker? Now I know what you might be thinking, you might not even be able to finish this tax write-off, and now you want to add in another impossible challenge to the mix? But despite your worries for my sanity, what is a TCLR subscriber except one who does the impossible? Raising the stakes, I will even be playing on the hardest difficulty at the risk of having my Amazon wishlist look like this. The rules of this Rectum Ravager disguised as a fun challenge are simple. I have to complete each mission without killing a single living being, human or walker. I can hit them as long as it does not leave them resembling a 19-year-old at an early 2000s frat party. If I kill anybody for any reason, I have to restart to the nearest checkpoint. Will I be able to avoid the forced kill sections? How will I deal with automatic weapons wielders swarming my position? And most importantly, can I complete this terrorist torture method before splattering my brains against my walls? Make sure to grab your favorite crack pipe, smash that like button like you had $20 to spare, and sit back as you watch me answer those questions and commit some necrophilia in the name of YouTube entertainment as we play The Walking Dead Destinies on crack. Finally delving into the PS1 world where the living dead have taken over and society has collapsed. No longer will we be held back by human rights, as it's every man for himself and survival is the name of the game. We awaken in a hospital bed as our hero Rick Grimes was shot and is about as useful as an obese paraplegic in the Tour de France. Needing to escape the hospital, we put on a little improv as a man who avoided the draft by obliterating his patella and finding painkillers which magically heal the separation of my ACL tendons. Continuing to the cafeteria for a light snack only to find what I believe to be meth addicts attempting to break down the door, no doubt looking to make my asshole a main course for their enjoyment. Realizing that the dead walk and their now revoked status as recipients of human rights, I wonder if their genitals have deformed enough to where mating with one would cause God to drop the Walker STD DLC, but after finding a couple who look like they spend most of their days with a special protective helmet on, I decide not to test it. Without any options to kill, you may be asking yourself how I expect to avoid enemies from making like King Arthur and ripping my rectum out of my ass to become the King of England. This is where my limited but effective abilities come into play. When I somersault, I phase through matter, allowing me to avoid the death grip of the living dead possessing a vicarious need to reproduce. I do have to watch out for my stamina bar as all these abilities depleted, and at 0 I'm more vulnerable than a multi-million-dollar NBA player when confronted with an OnlyFans model with a larger than average rear end. There is one ability that is above all the most effective, which will be imperative to completing not only my first test but the entire run, as with many obstacles and even more walkers, one false move and my asshole makes like Mickey Mouse and enters the public domain. That strategy is to run really fast, as in the world of AMC's The Walking Dead, a stroll at a brisk pace is enough to avoid most threats. With these abilities at my disposal and the world gone to shit, Rick needs to ensure the safety of his family, pushing this story forward as we return to his neighborhood. Rick ignores the disintegrating limbs of the living being rummaging through a truck, but it's a good thing he's far enough away. Oh, never mind, the game failed to mention I was dealing with the yellow flash of the leaf. Thankfully, a black man culturally appropriates as an Indian, an extremely effective move, leaving even a cop such as Rick to resist his sudden urge to crush the man's windpipe. Finding perfect fitting clothes in the sheriff's car, which is where one of our largest problems come in. The tutorial. You see, with the tutorial, our path is blocked until we change the walker's pronouns into is/was, going against our preferred strategy of pacifism. My plan is to sneak by them, which goes great until a fence that did about as much blocking as the Detroit Pistons do winning prevents us from advancing any further. Despite my scouring of every crevice, I cannot find a single place to advance, no bug created, aside from the walkers just sitting there waiting to give Rick back shots. And so, I am sorry to inform you, we are forced to eliminate them. This is where I tell you the challenge is impossible and the video's over, but I just won't count impossible levels as part of our speedrun. If you think that's cheating, I don't know what to tell you. Call me a racial slur in the comments or something. Morgan tells Rick there's a survivor camp in Atlanta, which is Rick's next destination, as that could be where his family is. During Atlanta, the story opens up as we can now engage in pacifism and avoid killing every walker. As a reminder, we are allowed to assault the walkers, just not sexually for the good of humanity. This does leave a problem. All these tight corners leave places where walkers will unconsensually enter our personal space and, like Mormons, refuse to leave us in peace. My plan was just to roll around like that one Ben 10 alien, but with a limited stamina bar, I fail in my challenge to avoid an STD from spreading through fun at a human, as with walkers, tight spaces, and limited tools. I'm sure you're asking, how am I going to overcome this significant hurdle? Simple. I will take my previous experience from Kino der Toten and train the walkers like a Riley Reid Christmas special, slipping and rolling my way to the tank for safety. We now get a message and play as Glenn, avoiding walkers and getting the first of many skill points. These skill points can be exchanged for goods and services, but considering they're mostly damage increasers, won't they be counterintuitive to our run? You would be correct, dear viewer, but considering Rick is trapped in a tank and in need of a stepbrother in this dire time, we need a plan for the game, enacting what I like to call Operation
Damn, boy, he's sick!
You see, while most skills will prove useless, there are two that are not only nice to have, but are imperative to our run. One of which are movement speed bonuses, which allow us to move faster, avoiding being stuck between a rock and a quite literal hard place. But there is one which, dare I say, would be more important: the heavy light attack. We'll get into that one a little later, but using this strategy, I am able to move quickly to the fire truck, and by playing Little Xan's greatest hits, the walkers leave the tank post-haste to come turn this felony off. Saving Rick and meeting up to compare schlongs with other survivors, this game unironically does something brilliant, akin to the Shadow of Mordor Nemesis system, but not quite as smart as the jiggle physics to get lonely anime fans to spend thousands of dollars on plastic paraphernalia. Merle is still salty about 1865, and I decide to stay true to my character and close my eyes when a white man is physically assaulting a melanated individual. Meanwhile, Shane just got done putting his stuffing in Rick's wife, and after my foraging, can't believe it's not Rick returns. And I know he's supposed to look enraged, but it comes off as him looking like he's holding in an eruption of liquefied feces. Those creamy backshots were too much to give up, but Lori's having none of that, leaving Shane holeless and Genshin Impact halfway installed. Our camp gets overrun as the gameplay in this game is like trying to castrate a flea, which is a shame as this next challenge necessitated a trip to the hospital without showering. Despite Lori's 99th percentile ranking on the autism spectrum, I save both her and Carl as I'm forced to defend the spiritual short bus for 90 seconds. My plan is to do some damage to get them off, but end up restarting numerous times as I kill a few of them accidentally. Even setting the difficulty down to medium did little to aid me in this endeavor, as without interference, the RV is sad as the home base for an orgy, and the living are not invited. How did I get past this seemingly impossible challenge? The light attack skill. By incapacitating a number of walkers, I managed to win by the sliver of health Russian dissenters are left with, after getting hauled into a white van during an anti-Putin protest. At the highway, Sophia escapes, but I find the little girl and leave her alone in the equivalent of the apocalypse's cell block pedo before fighting off incoming walkers, using a plethora of non-violent means until time runs out.
But you can't do this to me.
I would like the records to show that I didn't kill them, as I was ready for this. They dropped dead after I showed them a photo of Gorlok the Destroyer at her prettiest. After the white van driven by EDP housing a 6-year-old girl vanishes, Shane and Rick argue over who made Lori moan harder until Carl sees a deer before seeing stars as lead enters his left hypochondriac. Not good. Arriving at a farm, Herschel tells us of a hospital nearby which we can infiltrate like Glenn will his daughter, finding half Bulla and avoiding him, while taking all the supplies I need. Before moving to Shane, getting to the infirmary, and collecting all the medical supplies I need, before entering the gymnasium, finding the door leading outwards sealed shut, forcing me to evade zombies for 2 minutes once more. At least until they introduced me to Big Chungus and was forced to kill more walkers, which I do. After After emptying an entire magazine in his skull while avoiding the supersonic speed charge of a Discord mod when he hears a new underage body pillow just dropped. As we're escaping, Maggie proves the only thing she could do in the real world is OnlyFans, as I'm forced to pick between her and the medicine. Choosing her since surely Carl won't. Well, at least she's pregnant, and whether it be Rick's or Shane's kid, that's up to you. Going back in time to Shane arriving at Rick's hospital bed and closing off the door when it's obvious he won't budge. I attempt to establish contact with the local militia, but they instead seek to establish the merging of my brain matter with the floor. By far the most arduous challenge of the run, my hemorrhoids reached master prestige in but a few hours. It doesn't matter how fast I go, they always guarantee I'll be the man when they cast a live-action SpongeBob. After a few restarts, I had thought I had this run in the bag, shoot the crates and roll to victory. But that wasn't nearly enough, as the stretchers are blocking the road. Why? I had to move 2 of them while getting shot at point-blank range, which went about as well as you would expect. I'm left to restart again and again and again, and after cleansing, bleaching, and breaching my asshole numerous times, I had a record 52 restarts, as no matter what I did, I just couldn't break through. And after Lana Rhodes fails to pick up and give me her expert opinion on taking 50 men at once, I was left stumped. However, I realized something. These army officers are retarded. By shooting the starting crate and grabbing a medkit before hiding, they would search the area before realizing there was nobody there. Afterwards, I sneak, then sprint before heavy attacking the second crate and rolling. After getting low, I would use my medicine, which would take effect right as I enter the red, giving me the time needed to take the stretcher, rolling through more boxes, and I got so close. Close enough to reach a new autosave. After that tribulation, I was able to finish the rest of the flashback easy as the funniest scene of the game comes on. We clear it with Daryl as Rick and Co just sit there, masturbating to Walker cheeks. To this day, I have no idea how Sophia appeared in the barn. Let me know down below and I'll reply to your comment while hearting, because it still makes no sense to me. After Rick looks like he dunked on the entire team, Shane takes him out back and tells him to look at the rabbits, picking Shane's side and getting the worst boss fight ever conceived. You see, I thought in this open field we would be fighting one-on-one, and I was prepared with timely dodges, gunshots, and pipe hits. The problem occurs after the first stage, where walkers come in, and instead of systematically attacking anybody in range, each one is given a specific person to seduce, like an episode off Love Island. So it ended up as a comical scene where Rick was at the head of an army of walkers while I furiously ran around attempting to train the walkers and Rick. After distracting them and then coming around like a Randy Orton RKO, I eventually leave Shane to kill Rick. Not me, so this doesn't go against the challenge. I'm still a pacifist. But as bad as this boss fight was, nothing, and I mean nothing, even compares to what was in store when we invade the governor's compound. But we'll get into that. Returning home to the barn-burning how? I couldn't tell you. iCarly's fires made more sense. Discovering the prison, where I find a man loitering around our new home, and I let him stay, leaving both Daryl and Carol disappointed, as he is not a man of class nor has the appropriate qualifications to join our pure group. After Herschel, whose dodging animations look like he broke his back midway through, actually breaks his back, which causes Shane to drop the weapons back. I'm not necessarily sure on the physics of what occurred here, but I choose the Second Amendment, leaving Maggie to blame. Merle?
I'm like, what'd he say fuck me for?
After this, the unclassy thug kills Carol as I chase him down to the generator room, taking me one try to colonize Andrew, coming back to Shane's baby being born. We secure some supplies for the baby at a not abandoned, it seems, hardware store, witnessing a samurai getting jumped and confused as to what happened next, leaving me as kerfuffled as Shane, but apparently Daryl got captured off screen. And now for the worst 15 minutes of my life. I was was forced to walk around Woodbury doing nothing but sit there with a finger up my ass applying the hemorrhoid cream this challenging story gave me. After figuring out T-Dog joined the governor, we get a minor stealth mission to grab our pool noodle, discovering the governor's daughter in the process, deciding it best to let sleeping dogs lie, and keeping her alive. Never mind. T-Dog is in charge now. Escaping the town as the governor, which all goes for naught as he's caught in the end anyways and is promised a good time with a real governor. With our man down and nation at war against Blackbeard, who saw the latest news on Burkina Faso and thought, yeah, I could do that. We go to collect weapons before launching our grand offensive. And who better to collect those weapons than Lori 2 minutes after giving birth? But that wasn't all. The straw that broke the camel's cock was me running upstairs, avoiding the guards, returning down to loot the place, and finding the Woodbury retards huffing the paint flakes peeling off the wall. I managed to collect the weapons needed for our rescue operation, and with our skills updated, weapons collected, and declawed walkers defiled, we are finally ready to go save Daryl and neuter the threat once and for all. Cutting back to Woodbury, where I play as Daryl in a can't break the first rule against the governor before the prison group launches their assault, leaving me to deal with the run killer, the most impossible challenge this shitty game has to offer. As Shane, we're tasked with breaking down 7 of the finest military vehicles Woodbury has to offer. I tried rushing through them and attacking the Hondas as fast as possible. It takes 3 heavy attacks to take out each truck, which is difficult to do when you're being accosted by 15 men using what legal experts would classify as excessive force. Even with medkits, I'm left with not enough health to deal with these paramilitary forces, leaving me to restart 13 different times. With all seeming lost, I scoured the skill tree hoping for something, anything, to save this run. And then I found it. We buy the skill Super Heavy Attacks, allowing me to destroy Toyotas in 2 hits instead of 3. This allows me to eke out a win on try 17. With that success, we burn down the Opsis home base, winning the war and integrating the residents, while their leader is on the run, but this success did not come without sacrifice. God did indeed drop a new patch for STDs, and with reports of T-Dog securing his own T-34, we're at the most critical juncture needing both medicine and weapons. Shane returns to our old neighborhood, convincing Morgan to give us his weapons, which works somehow. I mean, why wouldn't he? But at the drugstore, Glenn and Michonne are caught before T-Dog appears soon after, whipping his Sherman, and Glenn's efforts to talk T-Dog down seem to work, until it doesn't. With our Asian twink deleted, peace is not an option, leaving us to complete the final challenge, Shane's one-on-one fight with T-Dog. The ring of fire that kills you when you enter with low health, combined with T-Dog spending the last year or so training with Shaolin monks, allowing him to dodge everything. And finally, walkers causes numerous restarts. Whenever I aim at T-Dog, it forces me to attack the walker with non-negotiable auto-aim. These challenges made everything impossible, as one wrong move and there was a restart. So close to the end, and yet with this seemingly impossible cliff ahead of me, I thought this run was over. So how did I succeed? Simple. I used Michonne's sword, making sure to stay on the inside of the ring, keeping T-Dog between me, so if I burned, he'd burn more. Waiting until the walkers inquire as to his extended warranty before launching a flurry of attacks. With this tedious but effective strategy, I was able to defeat him. Not kill, that was Shane's doing. The rest of the game was easy until Big Chungus glitched out and I just watched a YouTube video for the rest. There wasn't any other difficult challenge as everyone escaped the prison right after. That is the end of this challenge, and looking back, I want to kill myself. This was not worth it, and nothing but my suffering and loss of anal virginity was achieved. So to answer the question of can you beat The Walking Dead Destinies as a pacifist? My guy, you can't beat the game without it failing on you like a terminally ill patient with life support unplugged. Comment down below Big Chungus got a fatty to confuse the people who left early, and assault that subscribe button like it forgot to take the chicken out the freezer. And I'll see you all next time. Peace.